Hi, welcome to Comic-Con at Home 2020. This is our virtual Comic-Con. Thank you so much to Comic-Con for pulling this all together. Since we're not able to all go be there in person, of course we would love to be, but here we are all together virtually. I'm so excited to have the Walking Dead World Beyond panel. We're going to break this up into two segments. So I'll have one group of people for the first segment, and then the second segment we'll switch out and have another group. There's a lot to talk about because not even I have seen anything of World Beyond except for just the little teaser clip that was shown last year. Just so you guys know at home, Walking Dead World Beyond will air Sunday, October 4th at 10 p.m. 9 Central. And then it's on right after Walking Dead Season 10 finale. And then Talking Dead will be on after World Beyond. So we're going to have sort of like a mega Talking Dead to cover all of it. But I am so beyond excited to get to talk to everyone for this. But first, let's show a never before seen clip, some teaser exclusive footage right here for Virtual Comic-Con. So let's roll it real fast. We'll be right back. Roll the thing.
When I was just a little kid, I just jumped to living for the future. So, how do I live for myself? We're 10 years in now. 10 years, and the dead still have this world.
You really think the world's gonna end?
I know it is.
Our dad's in trouble.
We have to help him. Could die. We could live.
We have to be brave in this life we have. Simply to exist now.
This thing we're doing, going cross country, is big. Your friends, your sister, they're all counting on you.
There may not be something around that corner, but sooner or later there will be.
What lies ahead is not going to be easy, but we're going to make our lives count. Not because we're the last generation, because we're the beginning.
We were born for this.
There's a big, beautiful world waiting for you out there. Go. Fight for it. Be brave.
And there it was, the never before seen World Beyond brand new trailer. Thank you so much for being here to be able to experience that. Now that we've seen the trailer, now let's talk to the people who were in the trailer. This is our first group from the Walking Dead World Beyond. We're going to break it up into two groups as we did the other Walking Dead panel. So here we go. First up is Aliyah Royale. She plays Iris on the show. Then Alexa Mansour. She plays Hope. Then Joe Holt, who plays Iris and Hope's father, Leo. And Julia Ormond, who plays the mysterious leader, Elizabeth. Also, executive producer and showrunner Matt Negrete. And, of course, Walking Dead Universe Chief Content Officer, Scott M. Gimple. Thank you so much for being here. Scott, let's just start with sort of the broader picture, the kind of bird's eye view of how World Beyond fits into the Walking Dead universe. What percentage of the DNA of First Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead does World Beyond share? How is it similar, and what's the new take on the world?
Well, Rick woke up after a 2-week coma to find the world had changed. These two sisters don't wake up from a coma, but they do wake up from maybe the way that they were looking at life. And they go out in the world and they discover a new world. They start in a place of safety, and yet not a place of ignorance. They've been living in the apocalypse, but under pretty first world conditions. So they leave that safety to do something heroic. And I would say all of it, the thing that they have in common, most of all, is Walking Dead. You know, bad things happen. It gets a little horrible. But the basis of that is that love exists. In the Walking Dead universe, love exists. And everything they're putting themselves through is because of love.
Matt, in the trailers, the characters refer. Yeah, right. Nice.
Sorry,
Yeah,
nice.
bless you.
I really
No,
like
no,
to kind of say,
Chris just wanted to roll over that. Oh my God. How dare you?
Scott, you've been on all 3 of the Walking Dead panels so far. I just want to
No, we got to keep it moving. No,
it's amazing Scott stopped
with
the voice after all this.
Matt, in the trailer, we hear a reference to Monument Day. Can you talk a little bit about that and what it means to their world?
Yeah, definitely. There's actually 2 events that we talk about quite a bit in the pilot, and the first one is the night the sky fell, and we see flashbacks to that in the pilot, and it's this really dark, intense series of flashbacks that we're going to see, and really bad things happen. It's called the night the sky fell because bad things are literally falling from the sky during this, and it really is a night that changes the fate of everyone involved who went through this. But at the same time, this is the last time our characters experienced fear in that way, experienced the real world, because what they were doing during the night the sky fell is going towards safety, and that's where they've spent their lives ever since, for the most part. And so that's the night the sky fell, and then now where we pick up is 10 years later, and they reflect on that, and that moment or that day of reflection is called Monument Day, and it's really called that because they're thinking about reflecting on the monuments of the past in terms of reflecting on who they were and who these people were, what they mean to them, but also what kind of monuments do they want to be for the future. And so it really is this solemn day of reflection, commemorating all the people that they've lost from the past.
And so, because it's been 10 years since the apocalypse happened, they obviously were alive when it happened. But would you consider them to be essentially the first generation children of the apocalypse?
Exactly. And that's the thing, to Scott's point earlier, is they've grown up in the apocalypse, and their real life is so much different than what we know today. It's their what they know of their daily life that was any sort of sense of normalcy was they were like 4 years old or younger. So even those memories, I think, are pretty hazy. So in the time since, it really has been this adjustment of survival and then being a part of this community that's really unlike any community we've seen so far in The Walking Dead. And again, going back to something that Scott said, is they're not ignorant at all. It's they know how walkers work. They know how we call them empties on the show, actually, but we know how they operate. They know how to kill them, but in theory, they've never actually done it before. So when they're ultimately faced with some of the hard physical realities of this world, they're armed with intellectual knowledge of how to do it, but they've never actually done it before.
Actually, that you just said something that leads perfectly into the first fan question. This is from Rancid Funeral on Twitter, who says, Matt, why call the walkers empties?
It's funny. When Scott and I were working on this pilot and talking about the show in general, it's always that question of what do they call walkers in this corner of the universe, and I started thinking about something that Robert Kirkman had put in the one of the comics. There was a character who also used this phrase from the show, and I just loved the term, and it was empties. So yeah, I'm basically straight up cribbing Robert Kirkman is a short answer to that, but
which is fine.
But I believe it was Jesus who used the word.
Yeah.
They dropped out.
Oh.
And what's funny is I was talking to Robert about it, and I'm not sure he remembered, but he's done a lot of Walking Dead comics.
Yeah, and
really just one issue.
Yeah, and the thing that I really loved about it too was that it, like, thematically, it felt relevant to the show because Iris in the pilot is dreaming that she's dead because she essentially feels empty inside, and so it just kind of felt like there was a cool parallel there to it. So, yeah.
Alexa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you. So your character's name is Hope on the show, and is that name reflective of her general outlook?
No. No, no. I think, oh man, I don't think that they could have picked a name further from the truth for Hope. I mean, she is just like, she's kind of coasting through. She's kind of living by like whatever happens, happens. She doesn't have hope for anything.
Okay.
So definitely does not fit her.
Irony.
But
It's irony.
oh, so much irony. So much irony. I think if Iris's name had been Hope, I think that would have worked out, like been more on point. But I think it's kind of cool because she does gain hope throughout the show, I think, as it goes on.
So Aliyah, so is that true? Iris is the more hopeful of the characters, or anything of the characters? Can you tell us anything else about her role within the community?
Iris is a very fiercely loyal friend. If you need her to babysit, she'll babysit. If you need her to tutor you, she'll tutor you. That's pretty much Iris's role in the community. She will take on any role that you need her to do. She feels responsible for not just herself, but the well-being of everyone around her, even a new stranger. The thing about Hope, though, Hope is Iris's hope. Iris cannot have the strength that she has, or the tenacity or the courage, if Hope isn't there by her side to say, like, yeah, we can do this. It's totally a double team effort. And sometimes when Iris might have a good idea or wants to execute something, she still can't execute it unless she knows, like, nah, I've got hope.
And Alexa, is that true for Hope as well, for Iris? I mean, can you talk a little bit about like what their bond is like?
I think Iris is always there to catch Hope when she falls. And I think Hope is kind of like, how do I put it? I think Iris is Hope's hope. I'm saying what Aliyah said, but it's like, no, but it's so true because Iris has the idea to leave and go on this mission. And Hope is the one who's like, pretends to be such a badass and that she can do anything, but she's so scared. And she looks to Iris, who's the goody two-shoe, who's the one that always follows by the rules. She looks at her and she's like, oh, I don't know if I could do this. But Iris convinces her to do it. I mean, keep in mind, Hope is the kind of person that's going to ditch school. She's going to have Iris cover for her when she ditches school. When she has a punishment, Iris is the one that figures out a way to get her out of it. And you'll see that Iris literally bails her out of
I got you.
Things. Always. And but I don't think if it wasn't for Iris, I don't think Hope would come out of her shell. And I don't think Hope would even consider leaving this community and going out there.
As performers, to sort of, because you're obviously immediately thrust into this chaotic world and you have to have this immediate bond. So as performers, how did, and this is for either of you, how did you establish that bond, working together to create that bond? Yes, I see Alexa's hand is up.
I get a text message. I thought someone else got the role. I had no idea who Iris was going to be. And I thought it was someone else, and I had met this someone else, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through it. Everything's going to be okay. Just make it through this shoot. I get a text from Aliyah, and she's like, I'm not going to tell you guys who I thought got the role because I'm not going to get into it. Aliyah texts me, and she's like, hey, we have this like little video for AMC. Can you come and help me? And I was like, oh, God, okay, yeah, I'll go help you. Because I thought it was someone else. And I get there, and I see her, and I was like, yes, I can help you. We're going to do this.
From that moment, we had a mutual understanding.
Oh my God, every night it was you and I. You would come to dinner with my mom and I would hang out. And then you ended up living with me the whole shoot.
The Walking Dead is just one of those interesting things where once you're a part of it, you really do become a part of this family. And you're together working under very strenuous conditions, for a long time. But then when you go out into the world, everyone's going to recognize you from the show, and it's going to be part of you. Are you either of you prepared for the enormity of that yet?
No, in short. No, it's funny. Yeah. I think especially like when we walked on stage for New York Comic Con, I realized after like watching the panel before of the flagship, The Walking Dead, the fans end up knowing more about the characters and the storyline than the actors do. They become beyond invested, and I'm ready to just be a part of a community that genuinely cares about the characters, the story. Yeah, it's awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and the Walking Dead fan base loves to know that you are a fan of it as well, and so when they know that, you will feel the love. So I'm very excited for you to get to see what that experience is like when October rolls around. This question is for Joe. So Joe, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your character Leo and what makes him leave the community where his daughters Hope and Iris are living?
Yeah, Dr. Bennett is a renowned biochemist and geneticist. He's brilliant, which is why I was cast, I'm assuming, as Dr. Bennett. And he ostensibly goes off to try to teach and impart the wisdom that he is gaining about what he's discovered in terms of trying to cure this plague, this epidemic. And so he goes off to another community to try to impart his wisdom and help them along.
You're going to get this question a lot, so just be prepared. This is from Chow Michaela on Instagram. Joe, what is your signature weapon for the zombie apocalypse?
I have to have an original weapon, or can I use a weapon that I've seen in the past?
You can use whatever you want. It's your choice. It can be a combination of weapons, whatever.
It's hard to get past Lucille, which a baseball bat with barbed wire around it was a fantastic weapon. I thought it would be a long hammer, but after seeing Lucille, I'm getting a baseball bat, and I'm going to put things on the end of that baseball bat. That's totally what I would be using.
Scott, there's no reason that Lucille. Yeah, there's no reason that Lucille couldn't have made her way to their camp right by this point. It's a few years, right?
She could have a sister that has nails in it or something.
Yeah, I mean she has a contract.
Got it.
Specific
Got it.
to walking.
Yeah. She'd have to sign Lucy would have to sign a new deal with World Beyond. It's all lawyers are dealing with.
It's very complicated.
Yeah. So this next question is for Julia. First of all, it's really an honor and so wonderful to meet you virtually. Thank you for being here, Julia.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm really excited to be part of the team.
Of course. So we just talk a little bit about Elizabeth, who is introduced on the show by arriving on a black helicopter with 3 rings on it. And this is the same kind we saw take Rick Grimes away. Interesting. So can you tell us about Elizabeth and what it felt like to enter the show in that fashion?
No.
Okay. Good. Guys, this was great.
No, I will. But I'm going to try and be clever with it. It was helpful, wasn't it? As a starting point. So she's basically a high up figure in a soon to be discovered new community, and quite authoritarian community, more kind of along the lines of the pragmatist character, which I think in terms of Walking Dead often skews to maybe the sociopathic people, but yeah, so that's me.
Was there preparation in the sense, like, did you watch the other shows to catch up, or what was? How did you
become to access the sociopathic bits? Well, what I did do, and I have a confession to make that I've sort of already spoken about it. I wasn't originally. I didn't tap into it originally, so I didn't get sucked in. So when it came up, I was kind of like, maybe binge watch that a bit more, because millions of people can't be wrong. And I quite often have this binge watching experience where I don't get into it in the first. When Walking Dead came out, I think I kind of didn't really latch on after through the whole of the first episode, and then I went back to it with a view to maybe looking at 4 or 5 of them, and ended up binge watching everything, and then going on to Fear Walking Dead, and just becoming a complete fan. And I even towards the end, I was sort of, it would get to the end of an episode and the credits would come and I'd be like, no. And then people would be coming in and saying, can we turn this off now? And I'd be like, no, sorry, you've got to get, this is work. This is work. Okay. And then I'd get excited as the theme music would come on, and I'd have to decide whether to skip the intro or, Anyway, so I turned it into a complete,
Fantastic.
I've had a similar. I had not watched the show, full disclosure, and about 10 days ago, I decided I got to get into this thing, and I've watched 90 episodes
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I don't know that it's healthy or that I would recommend that way of watching it. But now I'm like an addict of the show, and so whatever you guys are doing, it works.
Well, first of all, just to make everyone feel better, number one, Andy Lincoln hasn't watched the show, as far as I know. Scott, has he watched it yet? He has caught up now?
No, he has not watched it. And I will say one time I was doing a DVD commentary with him on an episode he wasn't in, The Grove. 5 minutes into it, I was like, "You're not watching this, are you?" He's like, "No, I'm not." I'm like,
well, I hope
commentary ever.
Ormond would agree. Flawless accent work. Flawless accent.
thank you.
We actually, speaking of Mr. Lincoln and Rick, the most asked question that we've gotten from Petros Alexou on Instagram, Julia, does Elizabeth know where Rick is?
Right. So if Elizabeth knows where Rick is, I'm not sure that she would tell you. And if Elizabeth tells you, I'm not sure that you should believe her. And I, Julia, am not going to say anything because I'd like to keep my job.
That's a perfect answer. You covered all the bases. That was a flawless answer.
That was the judges voted 10.
Yes.
You'll just have to watch and find out.
Okay. MS1182 on Instagram says, Matt, World Beyond takes place somewhere different than Walking Dead and Fear. Will we see how geographic location affects the way people survive the apocalypse, and what's up with the giant fires in the trailer?
Yeah, definitely. I think it will affect, how we see empties portrayed. I think that, something Scott and I were talking about when we were first talking about the series in general is, it always is about making walkers or empties unique. And obviously Greg Nicotero is a big part of that, a huge part of that. But specifically for Nebraska, it's notoriously flat. There's not a lot of hills there. And so one of the things that we were thinking about is, Scott and I were talking about future episodes, and we really wanted to get into establishing some big obstacle for our characters. That was like a point of no return. And so we started just shorthanding it, calling it the Moana Reef from Moana, obviously. And for the longest time, we'd talk about it. So yeah, then they'll go past the Moana Reef and blah, blah, blah. And then finally, it was just like, all right, we need to figure out what the Moana Reef is. And so in the interest of knowing that things are flat, it's like we started thinking about like, what's something you could see for miles that could theoretically attract empties for miles. And what we realized is that, we started researching fire tires and the fact that like huge piles of tires.
Tire fires.
Tire fire. Did I say pyre? What did I say? Fire tires?
Fire tires. Getting back to Mario Kart.
Fire. See, now I can't say it.
Tire
fires.
Tire fires.
And 1, 2, 3. Tire fires.
I can't.
Tire fires.
Tire fires.
God, he's not going to get it. We're just going to have to pick up tomorrow.
Is this a classical? It's a classical theater game, isn't it? Tire fires.
Tire fires. I said piles of tires. There we go. Piles of tires. And so, yeah, these huge piles of tires can burn and burn and burn for decades if they're not attended to. So we started thinking about like what could be more awesome than a huge pile of tires that's like miles wide that can attract empties for miles and have our characters have to go through it to get past this point of no return.
This is from Harold D on Facebook. Alexa and Aliyah, how did you react to your first walker sighting and walker kill? Empty.
No. So, fun fact, I am absolutely terrified of zombies, walkers, the whole thing. It's not my thing. It's probably the one thing in the world that scares the life out of me. Like, I would go to horror nights here in LA every year, and the one year I didn't go was when the entire theme was The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
Because I went.
I loved it.
No, I'm good. The undead is not for me. So upon I think it was my first night on set, we were doing this scene where I don't even know how many walkers we had on set, but the first time that I saw one, I had opened the door to go into a catering area wherever catering was, and as I opened the door, like 12 of them just walked out. It was like I had opened the door for them. And it's pitch black dark. It's nighttime because we're shooting this really obviously creepy, eerie scene with lots of fog. And they just all walked out in like single file. And I don't know where they were going. I don't think they even saw me, but I was mortified and I just went right back to my trailer and prayed.
Well, in the trailer though, don't you just full on puke on an empty?
It took me time to get to that. Okay, I had to build up the courage. Even there, sitting like, even though I know I'm about to do this and like legitimately like projectile vomit onto this walker, I was mortified and just looking at it. No.
Well, Alexa, I heard because you mentioned you love Horror Nights. My wife and I go every year. It's the best. Halloween's our favorite.
Every year.
So this must be a blast
it.
for you. So doing this show, like killing walkers. Okay, there's a butt. Looks like there's a butt.
You see, I thought, you know what? I can handle this. This is going to be fine. I'm not going to get scared. But let me tell you, when they catch you off guard, it's pretty scary. Okay, I'm sitting outside my trailer. I'm minding my own business. I'm not asking for any trouble. And I just have this girl who, like, she was on a lot of the episodes as, like, walkers and stuff. And she just comes up, she's like, hey, Alexa. And I look over and I was like, I took a double take. I was like, no. I walked straight into my trailer and I walked back out. I was like, okay, hi, I'm Alexa. It's nice to meet you. I was terrified. And like, I started getting more used to it as I saw them like eating granola bars at Crafty. That's when I was like, okay, they're just like us. They're people.
Zombies are just like us.
Have
we not tried to just give them granola bars instead of eating our flesh? Can we not just drop some granola bars?
Another thing, they can't run very fast. These walkers, they can't run very fast. So just keep.
And they need fiber. They need fiber like the rest of us.
But time and time again on the show, you turn around and they're right there. Yeah,
don't get confident.
You all were so wonderful. This will conclude the first half of this panel for World Beyond. Aliyah Royale, Alexa Mansour, Joe Holt, Julia Ormond. Thank you so much for being here. I really look forward to being able to. Hopefully, you'll be able to come to Talking Dead in person. And I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. And I look forward to seeing you. And congratulations on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
See you.
Thanks, bye.
See you.
All right. So now please say hello to the second part of the World Beyond panel. We have Nicholas Cantu, who plays Elton. We have Hal Cumpston, who plays Silas. Nico Tortorella, who plays Felix. And Annette Negrete. So excited. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for being here for our virtual Comic-Con panel. Matt, so can you first sort of describe how Nicholas, Hal, Nico, and Annette's characters factor into the story?
Yeah, our group is on a cross-country quest this season, and they're along for the ride, essentially. Nicholas plays Elton. He's the brains of the operation, and he's an old soul in a lot of ways, and he has this amazing intellectual curiosity, and he thinks that that the dead walking the earth is part of this extinction event, essentially, and that humanity only has a couple of years left before it dies off. And so this is just one chance to really see the world before it dies off, before that happens. And so he's on the mission for that reason. Hal plays Silas, who is this loner with a secret, and he's got this dark past, and that dark past is along for the ride as well. And he's hoping to escape it, but as he'll see this season, that's easier said than done. Nico plays Felix, and Felix is the girl's guardian, essentially, while their father is away. And he's like a big brother to the girls, and he's also Hope's nemesis in a few ways. She likes to act out, she likes to get in trouble, and Felix is always there to literally, as we see in the pilot, put her in the slammer. And Annette plays Huck, who is Felix's partner in crime and Hope's mentor. And as we'll see, as things progress throughout the season, Huck feels a little responsible maybe for Hoping out there, and she feels like she wants to help bring the group back safely before anybody gets hurt.
Nicholas, a lot of people on Instagram want to know about the suit. They want to know why Elton dresses in a suit. They don't seem to be hating on it. They just say, hey, it looks uncomfortable. Is it uncomfortable to be in the apocalypse in a suit?
Well, I wouldn't say the suit itself is uncomfortable, but when you mesh the suit with 100-degree weather and empty blood just coming at you from everywhere, I could say it gets a little bit uncomfortable with the elements, but it provides more protection than it does discomfort because it's made out of Tuffy Stitch, which is impervious to walker bites. So I'm a walking shield that looks like a teddy bear, and it's the best thing ever.
And
is it actually called Tuffy Stitch?
It's called
Tuffy Stitch. Kids can wear them. Kids can't tear them.
They can't tear them.
Yes.
Durable clothing.
And Nicholas, how many suits did you go through just in season 1? Like,
well, we went through about 3 because of this thing called cells multiplying and me becoming a larger human being. It was very weird. And by the end of a few of the episodes, I was walking through like barely fitting in my suit, and the wardrobe department was like, "Hey, maybe we should do something about that. Maybe we should help him out."
Stop growing.
Yeah,
you're gonna be like 6'4" next year when we start shooting season 2.
Exactly.
He's gonna look like The Rock, I think, in season 2.
Yeah, we're gonna get him on our security team, Nico.
I'm gonna get those cool Hawaiian tattoos, all that.
Hey, it's me, Elton. I'm just the same kid I've always been over here.
Let's go save the girl's dad, everybody.
Just need a shave.
I love science.
Tuffy Stitch. Tuffy Stitch, by the way, is totally something I would buy in an Instagram ad. Like if I saw like you can't like it's impervious to walker bites, I would absolutely buy that.
It's an immediate purchase. It's an impulse buy.
It was durable, for kids in the 90s, so they didn't like tear their knees, the knees on their pants open playing on the playground. It wasn't specifically made for walking.
Yeah, for those rough and tumble kids. Yeah.
Tuffy Stitch predicted the apocalypse and said, "We've got this."
It was a great Halloween outfit too. A lot of people dressed up as Elton last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that's really cool. Did you do you know martial arts? You actually know martial arts on the show.
Yeah, Elton is a black belt in karate in our community, which is blocked off from all the dangers of the world. I've taken up teaching these little kids how to defend themselves in the apocalypse in Elton's dojo. So I got a gi on, I got my black belt, and I actually had to learn a lot of karate for the show because I couldn't just get there and like wave my arms and like fake it. I had to learn all the strength and the moves and these stances, and it was really in depth. It was super duper fun.
Fantastic. I want to kick it down to Hal now. You're coming to us from Australia. Is this true?
Down under.
What can you say about Silas's strengths and weaknesses?
As for Silas, I'd say on like basic thing, you just look at the post or whatever. You look at him compared to the other teenagers leaving the community they're in. You go, all right, well, cool. He's like quite big. He's got a massive wrench, and hopefully he can like at least provide some help, like in killing zombies when you're in a post-apocalyptic world. But I don't know, because he didn't have friends or a family or anything like that, then he soon finds that he's not as useful when he leaves as he would have thought. But I guess the strength is being like a nice, like he sort of doesn't have a malicious bone in his body, at least the beginning, that he can't not be a nice person all the time. But then again, I don't know, when you're in a post-apocalyptic world with zombies, that's not exactly the most necessary skill to have.
Why do you think Silas agrees to venture outside the walls with everyone else?
Well, even though there's zombies and everything out there, he doesn't talk to anyone within the community, and he's sort of shunned within this little world that they live in. So even though there's zombies and all these extremely dangerous things that you'd rather avoid, it's still probably better than living in a community where no one talks to you and everyone's like spreading rumors all the time. So Silas just, I don't know, cuts his losses and then goes, yeah, let's go kill some zombies.
In the show, by the way, he goes, yeah, let's go kill some zombies.
Oh, that's good. That's fresh.
Now, Nico, it's really good to see you again. You were phenomenal on Talking Dead. Thank you so much for doing the show. Just to remind people, Felix is a head of security on campus. So,
yes,
what does that entail? What are the responsibilities? How did you train for the role?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, he's responsible for keeping people safe. This community has been put together for some time. It's well established. There is a wall surrounding the university, and one of Felix's main jobs is to teach the younger generation how to protect themselves. Eldon has his dojo, Felix has his classroom, and it's physical activity as well as mental and emotional wealth and health and activity. This is the most physically challenging job I've ever had in the best of ways. As soon as we got to work, we started fight training, and then being on set. It's one thing to fight train, right? Like with a professional, but then you get to set and you got to put it all in action with 100 moving parts, and you have to shoot it from every angle to get, everyone's coverage. And it's a lot. But ultimately is like the most rewarding work I feel like I've ever done. And it's proven that I want to be an action star for the rest of my life. For sure. For sure.
That's fantastic. Like, I would imagine some people go through a Walking Dead show and they're like, I'm just going to do rom-coms from now on. Need to be covered in blood, guts, dirt.
I've been on rom-coms for the last few years. I am ready for this transition. I am prepared. Been there, done that.
You're taking the opposite route.
Yeah,
You're taking the opposite route.
Exactly.
Annette, Huck is also on the security team. So can you talk a little bit about their dynamic, Felix and Huck's dynamic?
Yeah, Huck spends a lot of time alone in the wilderness. So she's very excited to join a team of people, and she has a clear sense of purpose. And so she knows that the only way you can bring the world back together is if you get with the best group possible and really, so she's very grateful to be part of this community now and serve the community. And Felix and her work side by side, and they're really partners in all of this. And so it's a fantastic friendship, really, and partnership. And they're, well trained, and got the S-Poles, which is a new weapon created for our show, and got some of the best training that characters did to, be in this position to guard everybody. They're just, even maybe more childish than the children we are protecting in many ways. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun going on this adventure and with everybody.
I was very excited to hear. So Michael Cudlitz, of course, Abraham, was a director on World Beyond this season, and you're actually working on a movie with him right now.
The movie is called Manifest West, and it's directed by my husband, Louis Gibson, and his writing partner, Joe Holt. Michael says, "I cannot wait for you guys to meet the exciting new characters of the World Beyond."
Thank God for Michael Cudlitz.
Yeah, Michael Cudlitz,
legend.
We're giving him a virtual hug wherever you are. Scott, I have a larger story question, which is how much will the CRM, which is the group with the helicopters, how much will they play into the show? Are we going to find out more about them? Are they an integral part?
Yeah, it's a huge part of the show. We find out a great deal about them. Now, they are a very mysterious force, and their security and the community they keep secure are incredibly secretive. But regardless, we go into that community a little bit. We don't get a deep look at it, but we get some pretty tantalizing hints to it. And then, we straight up meet people from the CRM. We see Elizabeth, we see other people. And they're a constant presence in this story. They're a huge presence in this story. And it explains a lot towards what we've seen on the other shows, and it invites new questions. And this is me not being coy. There's a lot we're going to learn. So.
Fantastic. It's so nice to be able to have everything sort of tied together now, where you really have this mega arc that is the umbrella over all of the Walking Dead worlds actually finally tying together.
So awesome.
And on that idea, Matt, is that because one of the fan questions, which was actually also one of my questions, Zozo RB on Instagram wants to know what kinds of new zombies can we expect? Are they different than the other shows? Have they evolved in some way? Like what is the stamp of them? What's the World Beyond stamp on the zombies?
Yeah, it's interesting because we're now 10 years after everything fell apart, and so with that is 10 years of decay. So I'm a big fan of disgusting walkers. And I have this thing. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's like trypophobia, where it's just fear of holes in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one empty that sort of takes from that. And I didn't expect it when we were pitching it to Greg and his team, Greg Nicotero. But I was driving in Richmond, and my assistant Anna was actually driving the car, and I was in the passenger seat, and she showed me this sketch of what it was going to look like that Greg had forwarded on from his team. And I almost dry heaved because it had holes in its cheek. And then Anna, my assistant, has the same thing. So we're driving down the road in Richmond, and we're trading dry heaves. And I was like, tell him, it's awesome. It's so disgusting. And it's a quick moment in the show, but it's so great. So anything that sort of maximizes ultimate disgust, we're doing it.
This is from Stephen Shane 84 on Twitter. Nicholas, if you were to cross over to the OG show, which character would you want to team up with the most?
I think Elton and Eugene would be a genius powerhouse for the ages. I think we could save absolutely everything. We're both of our characters are very intellectual and curious about the world around them. And I feel like if we put both of our brains together, a lot of cool stuff could happen. I think Eugene is my go. And he wears those cool vests. He's got the ponytail. He's also swagging out. I got the suit. He's got some cool clothes too. It would just be a killer duo. I'd love that.
You're talking about current Eugene or not? Because when we first saw Eugene, he was a much different character. So you mean current Eugene?
Current Eugene, yeah.
Battle Eugene.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'd watch that show.
This is from Holt Books on Twitter, which is Nico. Has your character got any post-apocalyptic tattoos, or are they all your own?
Well, that is a complicated question with a complicated answer. It is no secret that I am heavily tattooed. And as we sat down to kind of figure out what made the most sense for Felix early on, I have a lot of pictures of family members as portraits on my arms. And because of Felix's past, it didn't really make sense to commemorate loved ones in such a permanent way. And I'm really excited. We all collectively came up with a pretty badass concept that is visually striking, but also honors the past and the ones that Felix has lost in a really special way. I'm excited that we landed on something so cool.
So as I think we're just about to kind of wrap this up in a few minutes, but I do just have a couple quick questions. One for Matt, which is, did you shoot the whole season? Or have you shot half the season? Like, where are you in your schedule?
Yeah, we shot all of first season is in the can. It's all ready to be aired. So I'm excited for that to happen. We are in the midst of the writers and I working on season 2 right now. We're in the thick of it. So like half of my stress of this panel is making sure that I don't actually say something spoilery because my head is so immersed in season 2 right now. But yeah, we were lucky in that we were able to wrap up post-production right before, actually just right around the time everything shut down because of the COVID situation. So so season 1 in the can and season 2 in progress. So I'm really excited for people to check it out.
Scott, this is from Anissa D on Facebook. Do you think it's harder or easier to make a storyline that does not have a graphic novel counterpart?
It's kind of both. It is harder and it's easier. It's harder because, the amount of brilliance that Robert Kirkman supplied, is both fortifying to a story and then getting even the new stuff that you come up with to get to the big moments in the Walking Dead comic book that were wholly original or inspired it's a really good synthesis. That said, it's easier in some ways because it's total discovery. People don't know what's coming next. People don't have an expectation of that scene, or they aren't even, with Walking Dead, we were working on things and they were like, man, I can't wait till they get to that thing 3 years from now. Right. They know where the story's going, and it's very exciting to surprise them. So, it goes both ways. But I mean, I would say that this show still has so much that is drawn as inspiration from Robert, and the tone of Walking Dead and the story values of Walking Dead, they are consistent. They vary in degrees, but they're consistent throughout all the stuff we do and all the stuff we will do.
And then lastly, can you just sort of give us an idea of like the decision, like why, and by the way, I do think it's a great idea. I just want to make it very clear that I'm asking this question. I think it's a great idea. The importance of showing the storyline from younger characters who've been sheltered all their lives. Like what was the importance of that for you as showrunners and writers?
Well, I mean, The Walking Dead has been on more than 10 years. Fear the Walking Dead, we're working on our 6th season now. We want to do something new. I mean, it's just straight up seeing something new and telling a different kind of story with a different kind of point of view. And that goes in all sorts of areas, but with World Beyond, but starting there has been an incredible source of inspiration, and it's been a wellspring of ideas and characters. We want to show the audience a different world of The Walking Dead, a world beyond, if you will.
Wait
there it is. There it is.
Nicely
A
done.
poet.
Thank you.
I wish I had a bell.
Good night, everybody.
That's that. I mean, that almost needs like that needs the
Drums.
drums.
I need to
at
do the
end,
drums. I have
Nicholas.
drums back here. Do it again. I'm not going to be able to hear
Okay.
Wait.
You know,
Okay, so Scott, yeah, he's got to turn the drum kit on. Okay, so Scott, so just say that last part again.
I mean, we want to show a different world of The Walking Dead, a world beyond. A world beyond, Nicholas!
I feel like the rim shot needed a rim shot. It was like a half a second late. Y'all have been so great and so gracious, and I really hope that I get to see you on the Talking Dead couch in the fall. Please stay safe, stay healthy. We have Matt Negrete, Scott M. Gimple, we have Annette Mahendru, Nico Tortorella, Nicholas Cantu, and Hal Cumpston have all been here. I just want to remind everyone that the World Beyond premieres on AMC October 4th of this year, 10 p.m. after the season 10 finale of The Walking Dead. And then right after, there'll be like a mega Talking Dead where we're going to just talk about all of it right after that. So you at home, thank you so much for watching. A huge thanks to Comic-Con for putting this together. And y'all at home, stay safe and stay healthy. And I really hope to see you very soon in person. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
Da-da-da, da-da-da.